Happy New Year! Hey, Christy, you have any New Year's music? That's not New Year's music. Anyway, I decided to do something different for the transition into 2026. So I'm going to record what looks like a live stream, but it's actually, I don't know, what's today's date? It's the 5th, I guess. And I'm recording it sort of like the year end wrap up. And I don't know when I'll post this, maybe the premiere. Possibly around 11 o'clock. Maybe it'll go into. Maybe it'll break New Year. So, at any rate, Happy New Year again. So, if you're ensconced in your lazy boy, man, I'm sipping this McDonald's tea. Because by now I probably posted this short where my wife coerced me to go buy Grinch Happy Meals, adult meals, right? And, oh, God, I put away what was it, the McRib and a partial Big Mac. Oh, my stomach is reeling. Plus, I do like 80% unsweetened tea, maybe 85, and just a smidgen of their sweet tea is so freaking sweet. It is like syrup, and it still tastes like way too sweet. So anyway, if you guys have a drink in hand, man, I don't know who's out there partying, but I figured it's kind of interesting to post it at the end of the year. So we'll kind of look at some of the cool things that happen. Hey, Christy, are you in there, by the way? All right. By the way, let me show you something real quick here. If you notice that, oh, what's on the? That was where the giant Jimmy Page amp was. So we started our transition into the music room, and where I would normally be unboxing is that corner right there. So we're not doing any unboxing today. So we're doing the. Now I got to straighten this back up. Is that right? Let's center everything nice and pretty. So yeah, the amp is moved in where the Astro Boy Sleeping Atom statue is. And so we're going to try to get some guitars in there, unbox that. And then, I guess if I haven't posted this, I think I posted a short, but if you look in Kitahara's book, the way he did his Sleeping Atom statue, we actually commissioned the same artist that built those speakers, the exact same display with that metal table with the sort of like purple velour base that Astro Boy Sleeping Atom is sitting on. We have that, and it's actually being shipped from Japan next week. So we replicated it. It was offered to me. It took almost a year, and thank God I paid for it pre-tariff. And I was like, we're still kind of wondering, like, are they going to try to like tariff us for stuff that was paid for and ordered before the tariffs were even conceived? So we'll find out, and I'm like, no. I mean, this was paid long before that was even a law, but you never know, man. Sometimes people get a little greedy, if you know what I mean. So there's that. And of course, we're going to talk about the record breaking piece that, let's see if I could point to it, is right there. Although that's not the one that sold at Morphy's auction. Thankfully, I had an example of that. And we'll discuss that. And a few little changes and kind of, let's see. Look, do I have a timer on this thing? Because I don't even know how long I've been recording for. Oh, it's only 4 minutes. All right. Anyway, hey, Christy, why don't you? So we hung up the, was it the Christine McVie? Let me get this a little bigger. Christine McVie. Oh, why am I on this YouTube stuff here? Let's Psycho Karen punched. Let's pop that out and go here. Actually, we'll go. Where was Alpha Drome? Let's go there. Stick with me here while I find it. Here we go. Put that as my background. Now I lost my train of thought. Christy, can you come here? We hung up the Rumors the Rumors Platinum album. So I finally started that transition, and the amp is in there, and it's the Sun Dragon amp. And I actually got another one, Jimmy Page version. These are signed by Jimmy Page, and it's his mini one. The big one is 150 amps, and I sort of like question my sanity because it's sort of cool, but it takes up a lot of real estate. And I'm like, is anyone ever going to play a 150 watt amp? I mean, that could be like powering a concert at Madison Square Garden. So I bet my son's like, hey, man, let me play it. I'll play it. And I'm like, yeah, well, where? Where the hell are you going to play it? So we'll see. But I have all the cool guitars, the what do you call it? Collectible guitars. We just have to order some of those lucite display cases. You remind me of Andrew with that phone.
I'm actually texting Andrew if you want to know the truth.
Yeah, do me a favor. Get me that. Not the get the small one for now.
This one?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll show you this. Kind of some of the other. This is just a small sample. I've shown this on Facebook, but here is. Let me see. This is the Grammy nomination for Rumors in 1977. And this was Christine McVie's personal Grammy nomination. I'm shocked that they didn't win. And if I'm not mistaken, believe it or not, what won was Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life. And I'm like, you know what? Whatever. This album, this is one of the most iconic, significant albums in history. And in fact, what does it say in the back here? It's something like, well, you probably can't see that because of the light. On the back, it says Grammy nomination plaque for Rumors, and that's about it. And then Julian's auction. And actually, there is something here that the company that made it is called let's see if I can read it to you. Permaplaque, Hollywood, California. So if you want to know who makes these plaques, it's Permaplaque. So, I like Stevie Wonder, and I think that was a fine album. I don't think they should have won. Where are you going, Andrew Jr.? You busy? Yeah.
I'm always busy.
You made me eat that horrible McDonald's to get your stupid Grinch socks. The least you could do.
I really appreciate you going there because I really wanted to try it.
Blah. And Christy had her first Big Mac of her life, if you could believe it. Yeah. Hey, let me see that Chicago pic. So here's a cool pic. Yeah, I should probably put this at home. But here we had it's not my greatest picture, but I mean.
Oh, that's really cool.
Here is.
Oh, look at that.
Here we are with Chicago. And those are stage use pics. I actually only wanted one of the VIP passes in there. I don't know why they put both of them. But that's the band. It's all autographed. So it's like having your Saturday in the park. Oh, and on the back.
I think it's a set list.
Yep. On the back we have their set list.
Oh, that's cool.
So.
And the dates too, which is nice.
So that's just a little sample of some of the stuff. Ooh, I'm scary looking over here. Let me shrink this. Get up. Wow, you don't want to see my mug that big. There, that's better. That was scary. I don't know how some of these guys do it, like to have the camera right on their face. I don't like it. I'm too old for that stuff. Should have had the camera on me when I was 20. Is that it? Are you leaving?
No,
are you camera shy?
Keep people in suspense.
Okay. So also this year I lost my other parent, so that was an awful thing. My mom passed in the middle of the year. I didn't talk about it, and I'll just mention it briefly. It's still a little raw, and so within a year and a half, I lost both of my parents, and it was a very horrible scenario to go through. Like the items that we had gone on vacation, like I know we went to, like for instance, Lisbon and Barcelona and stuff that we had bought for her that was just still sitting in the closet unused, and we had to give it away. And so it was just an awful, experience, and it made things very difficult this year. But we sort of just like worked through it, and it was really our first holidays without having either parent now for me. And so it's not something that's pleasant to deal with. I'll leave it at that. And so that's kind of it. Now, as far as the hobby, it's interesting because I've talked a lot about cars, and I'm wondering with the way cars are evolving, right? Self-driving, bland styling. I mean, not all of them, obviously, and of course, your supercar is notwithstanding. What is the interest level for collectible cars in, let's say, bring this camera down a little bit. So if you look at Doug DeMuro, right, it was kind of interesting. He's a good case study in this because Doug became very successful. He sold his Cars and Bid site. If you see him on YouTube, he's got like 5 million subscribers. And he's buying the cars of his youth that he liked. I'm, guessing he's like late 30s by now. And he, like most people, he remembers the Countach. So everyone remembers the Countach. I've even thought about, grabbing a Countach every so often. And they've skyrocketed in value despite being basically crappy build quality. I mean, I would put him even below like the 92 original Viper. But they're just awesome to look at, right? I mean, that was the poster. I had that poster, the black and gold Countach. Not the anniversary one that had the lower cladding and those strakes on the cladding. It kind of looks busy. But sort of like the cleaner, probably 84-ish year, and the clean body and the wing. I like the wing. And now he picked up a Porsche. I think it was the 99. Is it the 992 Turbo? Right. So basically, the stuff you grow up with is what you collect that you like. Not definitely not the toys for me. And now, what's the next generation? Somebody like him, comes into money, right, and he's buying the stuff that he liked as a kid. And he's also got a Ford GT, right, and the Porsche, what's the 918, I think, and the Carrera. So he's got quite a bit of cars, a couple of $1 million worth of cars. And so I'm thinking, what's today's 18-year-old, 20-year-old, what's he looking at that he likes, right? Let's say 20-year-old car, a 2005 car. I suppose that's the Ford GT, right? I think you still had the Viper. Obviously, you had Corvettes, but I don't know. I don't see a lot of 18-year-olds that are like really jonesing for cars at all. 16, 15, 16-year-old. Now you're into like 2010. A lot of young families are into like the Tesla Model Y. Christy's favorite car that we have, and we have a lot of cool cars. She likes her Model X. That's what she wants to drive all the time. 99% of the time we drive the Model X. It's just convenient. It's easy. You can put the self-driving on. It's okay. And as you go away from, nobody's buying standards anymore, standard transmission. Nobody's shifting. Nobody in my family knows how to shift except me, and I don't want to do it anymore. I mean, I get pain on my left side, so I'm not going to want to pop the clutch anymore. And I had a lot of fun. I remember driving hey, Christy, remember when we went to Colorado in the 80s? Yeah, I had that little Dodge Shelby Shadow that was a 4-speed, and it would zip around those mountains like really, really fun and grip the road. I mean, I almost had a, I don't know, if a momentary lapse of reason because I thought, let me get a car like that and I'll teach my kids to drive a stick. But then I thought they probably don't even care, and then I don't want to go through the hassle. But those cars were fun. They're tossable. Those little hot hatches like a Scirocco from the '80s. So I just don't know who the collectors are going to be, and this kind of bleeds into the toys too, but I don't know who the collectors are going to be for like these types of cars. I think obviously the rarest of the rare will always find a buyer, but I think the pre war cars, once like the Jay Leno types move on, I don't know that there's going to be anyone like I was also sort of like a historian when it came to cars. I'd buy the books, I'd read them just like I did with the toys. So I'd read about the pre-war Cadillac V16s, the Bentleys, the Auburn, the Bowtail Speedsters, some of the early steam cars. Of course, the Model Ts and how they impacted things. The early Oldsmobiles, the Chrysler Airflows, a lot of that stuff. Even the Buick Y Job, some of those concept cars. Of course, then the 53, the first Corvette, and then you had those like two-door Thunderbirds. So I also was a student of that stuff. And I worked in the industry too, peripherally, but so I was a car aficionado. And I wrenched as a teen, changed my own heads, changed my own timing chain, would do like the simple things like spark plugs, oil changes. When was the last time you saw a kid that, grabbed a wrench to change? I don't even think you could anymore. I don't even think you could. I couldn't even, find a battery on half these cars. Some of them are buried below panels in the trunk. I mean, it's complicated. And now you're filled with screens. So anyway, the point being that I don't know that despite the fact to say like a very rare version of, say, like a Dodge Daytona, the sister car of the Superbird, sold for 3.3 million. How you're not, unless you get some tech bro that just happens to be into cars. I don't know that you're going to find the next gen, even of very wealthy people, that are necessarily going to want something that's going to be very impractical to own, especially in places like California, where they restrict gas vehicles and they may not even care. It just might be a political statement for them to say, we don't care if you have a collector car. We don't want gas cars on the road. So you have that dynamic in play. So I don't know. What do you think, Christy? You should have been sitting here, but anyway, so the high priced sales, are they outliers or are they kind of the market trend? The other thing about now I'm going to go to the muscle cars because those were my favorite. Although now I'm starting to get an appreciation for like some of the other cars. But in the 80s, right, when performance started picking up again, they still, granted they handled better. They were more solidly built quality wise. But you still couldn't be like a huge big block motor, the sound, probably the quarter mile time, until you got into maybe the later 80s and you started getting like Callaway Corvettes, and, better fuel injection. And then maybe, like the Grand National. And I'm trying to think, like, what did the Grand National do quarter mile wise? Maybe equivalent to like a Hemi, I'm not even sure, or a 446 pack. So you still didn't even like break out of like the performance numbers from the mid to later 60s up to the early 70s. But now you can get a freaking Honda, like a little Honda Civic. What do they call it? The R, that has like 300 horsepower. It would smoke a lot of those muscle cars. Or you can get like, Christie's Model X Plaid and it'll just absolutely obliterate even most supercars. So you don't even have the advantage of speed anymore or bragging rights. And the other thing is, there's a trend where kids are getting their licenses later. They don't even care. They're just calling Ubers, right? And they don't have a passion for automobiles. So why am I talking about cars? Because this is more or less, although I did, one of my first videos was a car video, but because I wonder about the toys in the same capacity, right? Like kids today, young adults, they're having a hard time buying places, homes. Literally, it's too expensive for them, and the notion of collections, right? Is that going to become antiquated? Who's going to carry the torch for this stuff now? Thankfully, I have the means to display something publicly, but I'm using, and I'm packed to the gills. And I actually have overflow space in multiple areas, not to display, but just to store items. But I'm using 3,000 square feet, right? Purposely built for this. Now, you don't obviously have to have a collection display like this or this size, but how many young people have excess space to display, 50 items? And do they even want to? I remember my aunt used to have Hummels. She had tons of them. Her kids don't have the Hummels, and even Christy had a whole case full of precious moments when those were a thing. Hell, we boxed those things up. Maybe Christy. No, she's gone. I'd say 20 years ago, and they haven't seen the light of day. So I said, when did we box up your precious moments?
Oh, that was when we left Miller Place.
That was like 20 years ago,
It
right?
was.
And we haven't unearthed them. Nobody's interested. None of our kids are.
But they might be.
Maybe.
Brittany likes them.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. So it's going to be interesting to see what generation is going to carry the torch going forward in all these hobbies. Even, ironically, I rail against some of the wokeness in movies that's just destroyed everything. But besides the content changing the way it has, who has the attention span to sit through a movie? My younger son, that, well, I could probably say it here because this will be, I was sworn to secrecy. But like my older son already has a baby, and my younger son who's married, they may have a baby coming next year sometime. So, but as of now, he's been married. They've gone to maybe like 2 or 3 movies, in 2.5 years of marriage. So, I think the attention span for movies is waned significantly. And besides, like I said, for the older generation that don't like the wokeification, that's a completely other, set of problems. But, I have been in, well, I actually haven't gone to be fair, but like, effectively, my movie going ended in 2019 with Avengers Endgame. And since then, I was dragged to go see the first Joker by my son in the same year, actually, 2019. And I think the only other movie that I went to, if I'm not mistaken, was the Led Zeppelin. And that theater was just like 6 people. It was like Christy, myself, a couple that we're friends with came with us, and maybe 2 other people. And it was older, and nobody was checking their text or listening to their phone or, so it was fairly enjoyable. But even the last couple of years, and it was pretty ubiquitous back then, the phones, you had a lot of that going on. People checking messages, checking emails, whatever, and it was just a distraction. And, you know, unless you want to get into an argument with people, it just wasn't a pleasant experience. You know, you could be that person that just tells someone, hey, excuse me, and then, you know, can you turn that off? Can you stop? And then they get in your face and, you know, just, you don't want to go that route. So anyway, so a lot of things have changed culturally, I think. So that's one of the reasons I like to have this facility open here, because we do get young people here and they love this stuff. For the most part, you know, occasionally you get some teenagers. They're just, you know, grandparents drag them in, and they're just kind of like, you know, still on their phones, or they're doing the. But if they see something cool, like you turn on a big robot, then they might, like, eyes might pop open, and they'll take a picture, or even videotape it. So, but at least you're exposing them to something different. And you know what? Like, each section is a little hit. And that's what people are used to, right? Nowadays, their attention span is very short. It's like the TikTok generation. Hopefully, it doesn't get any shorter. So, anyway, going back to, you know, what's going to happen as far as collector, we did have some milestones. Not a pun on the auction house, but I think it was earlier this year. I don't know if it was this year or last year. I mean, the king had to be the ruby slippers that sold for like 33 million, and there's 4 pair. That's like obliterated everything. But Captain Kirk's phaser, I remember, I think I live streamed that, sold for $800,000. I think that was this year. Superman 1, a very rare, supposedly attic find that had white pages. That's kind of hard to believe, because I have paper, and, you know, whether it's boxes, posters, just anything. And even paper stuff I have from the 60s ages are, you know, in yellows and gets tan. I'm not quite sure how you get a magazine or a comic book from the 1930s and the pages are still kind of white. That's hard to believe. Now, I'm not saying that it wasn't the case. I just am very surprised. It's definitely not your typical attic storage, because I've had stuff stored in an attic. As a matter of fact, I did the short that I unboxed that banner that I bought, and that's a vinyl banner from the 2000s, and around the grommets, you probably couldn't see it on the camera, but around the grommets was a little bit of yellowing, and that's sealed. Fairly decent climate control, well, attic, but so somehow for almost 100 years, the pages of Superman 1 didn't turn yellow or tannish. That's unbelievable. I guess that's why I sold for $9 million. But toy-wise, which is what the name of the game is on this channel, the Atom Jet in the box sold for $40,000+. The Jupiter robot hit twice now, or maybe 3 times, 2 or 3 times, between 30 and 40, which is like where that was in the box mint. And I did get the one that was at Morphe's auctions. It was from the Bob Lesser collection. The box is definitely an upgrade for me. The toy is very comparable, but I figured I like notable collectors like Griffith and Lesser in particular, those two. So having pieces from their collection to me is worthy, and plus, yeah, upgrading the box is also important. And so, you know, that hasn't been shipped yet, but hopefully soon. And the Astro Ganger, which I featured on this channel, that actually was over $100,000. That's probably the world's most expensive talking toy. So you had that. As far as I know, there's 3 boxed examples of that. And then the interesting story of this guy here. Let's pull this out. Here is your $234,000, which includes the buyer's premium. Here is your friction robot car. All right, and Here's the robots. And ironically, if you were to assign the value, obviously the box, but this little tin screen here, which somebody, you know, humorously called it an iPad, a 1960s iPad, that's really the most spacey things. Now, of course, you're going to say the robots, which is true, but this is a common. I think it's a 58 Ford. I mean, it has the quad headlights, so it's probably 58, and it has the fins. Could be 59, maybe 58, 59. And they have a lot of examples of this car that you can buy, and you can actually see it on Alphadrome, which is actually, let me shrink my, by the way, here's the box, and this was like what made this. Mine is not the one that from Morphe's, by the way. This is what the box looks like. Right. I actually like this art. Now we've had some people critique it, and they're not as fond of the box. I like the art. I think it's cool. I like the robots driving. That little iPad screen to me looks like he's holding a boom box almost. And I kind of like that Jetsons futuristic city. It reminds me of I think it's kind of like the FDR in Manhattan. You got the river on your one side, like you're headed towards like Greenwich Village, maybe. So I think it's a cool design, and the rest of it, I might do a separate video with this. So the box is why that toy allegedly hit, and I'll get into that. Now, I'm pretty sure these robots were used, or at least the pressings, if the lithography might be different. So, in theory, right, you can buy a lot of examples of this car. Even if it's not silver, you could technically paint it silver. And this is actually a very clean example. This is much cleaner than I thought. And the friction on this is really smooth. And by the way, it has the ET logo there. Like this will come up. There we go. So I'm saying if you were on a budget and you really were jonesing for this car, you can buy the Ford. You could probably cast the two robots and just make your little screen. If you wanted to have sort of a nice facsimile, I'm not encouraging you to do it. I'm just saying if somebody really wanted to do something kind of, kooky to say, hey, look, I don't want to spend $250,000, but I would like an example. Now, you could buy the toy loose. I mean, loose, the toy generally was under $20,000. So, I mean, it's attainable. Not that that's cheap, but, it's not $250,000. So anyway, on Alphadrome, I won't get into, let me see if I could shrink myself a little more just to show you this, because I really have to do a better job promoting this, because I actually, purchased the site from Brian Hayes, the creator, and I've neglected to promote it as probably, a little bit more. I did the YouTube page and kind of parked that name and only did a handful of videos a year ago and haven't pursued it, but it's tough as I'm trying to grow this channel. But I encourage for the people that aren't on there. I mean, it's a absolute lifeblood. Like you go to the database, for instance, up here, and this does need work, but here we have it separated like flying saucers, miscellaneous vintage space toys, space capsules, space figures, space guns, space plastics, space vehicles, space toys, vintage robots, and vintage space rockets. So let's go to robots, for instance, and see how it's broken out. I mean, it could be organized better, there's no question. But you know what? It's better than nothing. So you say I click this astronaut. And it has the description under here, some information like manufacturer, the general date. So Let's go back. Same thing. And there's just a lot. This is like the mother lode of information. And I need this box, by the way. I need this Batman box. I have this toy. So if any of you viewers out there have this box, I mean, obviously I'm willing to buy it. I have the toy, but I would buy the toy again if I had to. In other words, I'd have two. But this is one of the few Batman boxes that I'm missing. So just interesting that that came up. That should be on their character toys. But again, so I kind of need volunteers, people that are actually familiar with a lot of this stuff. I need volunteers to be able to that know this stuff, because I know it, right? I would put the plastic robots together. Then I would separate them by year. I would separate, like I said, tin from plastic. I mean, you could really go crazy. You could divide it by, country of origin and things like that. It's interesting. Blue that was never made. So now I'm just kind of rambling, but this was the whole point of this stream, was to give you something to watch if you're sitting, because not everyone has like something to do. You could let me regale you with these tales. So this depiction of the Cragston astronaut here, this is just like a prototype. So if you were lucky enough to find this blue, spaceman, this would be like an amazing find, because it was never sold like this. I believe this one was red. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, here it is right here. The Great Astronaut, right? So you go into the prototype that's probably all hand painted. I do have some of the prototypes that are in the catalogs. Unfortunately, not something like insanely cool like this, which is what I would really want. But, this is what your prototypes look like. So let me go back out here and go back once again. And again, this is another prototype. I mean, I know that this was done in 3D. Brian, I think, did this. I wonder if John did this too. But here's like an alleged battery version that never made it, never came to life. And this is the actual finished product, the Diamond Planet. I need to upgrade my Diamond Planet, and I need a key for it. I've tried so many. I have my mint in the box red one has the key. My blue one does not have the key. So I want to upgrade that. Let's go back out. This might even be mine. I wonder if this is mine. This could be my actual toy. Let's see what else is here. El Robot, Spanish robot there. Yeah, I'm just kind of meandering through this because I don't really pay attention to this quite often. Here's National Kid. That's a cool flyer. So you can see here, it's just, again, a ton of cool stuff. I'm going to keep going through a few more things here. Just because there might be even toys I forgot about. One of my favorite astronauts. The High Bounce. So this is probably the Jupiter that I got at Morphe's via the Bob Lesser collection. Get a little bigger here. Because I'm pretty sure Smith House sold the Lesser collection. That might be a prototype as well. Now, the other thing I tell people when it comes to these toys, right, like why I think they will endure longer than most is because, first off, if you looked at the movie Megan 2.0, at one scene in her bedroom, the kid's bedroom, not Megan the robot, but the kid, I forgot the kid's name, but they have, and these are the set designers, right, the artists that do the sets. She has some Chinese reproduction robots scattered about, and she has a couple of Horikawa robots in her room. And I've seen that time and time again, especially the Horikawas for vintage, because they're still like relatively affordable. And what that tells me is that, the set designers, the artists, still like the aesthetics of these old toys. So I thought of, even in the stream, like focusing on the robot toys that have been in shows and things like that. But then I realized you can go back to when these toys were brand new, like the Twilight Zone episode with Jack Klugman, I believe, and he's selling like Robbie the Robot. I think he might have had the Space Commander robot too. So they literally had these toys featured in TV shows and movies since they were brand new. So they've always had this like visual appeal and flair. And let's maybe get out of the robot sound. Let's just check out a couple of space. Oh, now I got to go. Now I got to back out through all these pages. All right, and let's see space toys. Ah, here you go. The Mighty Atom. There is one Mighty Atom rocket and I just got this in the box, which you saw the video I made. I call it the Gang of Three. I just posted that Christmas Eve. I have the gun set actually with the holster and targets. It's sitting right there. When I moved the camera over there where the amp was, that's actually a bunch of Mandarake stuff. Have this in the box. And let's see. Oh, there's an example of the tank in the box. Ooh, the bat phone. Seems like there should be a lot more. These look like all character toys so far. So why are they under space toys? There's the Jetter Mars. Are these mine? I'm not so sure. Maybe this is mine. I can't. That's Prince Planet. It looks like mine because I made the picture with Astro Boy in between. So it could very well. Oh, here's my Uchijin Pippi. So very cool. I think like these are sort of like miscategorized. I do need the box for this rocket here, which I recently acquired. And then I have a Tetsujin box with without a rocket box without the toy. I have the toy without the box and a rocket box, Tetsujin rocket box without the toy. So blah. Is what it is. All right, so I could see why Brian said we need to work on these because this is not correct. But I guess like the space vehicles is more like what I was thinking of. Your traditional space toys. And again, the one thing about like AlphaDrome's database is Google pulls this right up. I mean, these have been indexed for decades now, and if you put in typically, like, say, Florida Airboat, like right here, usually it shows you the AlphaDrome database as your reference point, your starting point, which is good. But this website, at least the way I upgraded it, has been fairly costly. You know, Brian was able to do it on a much more affordable budget because he did a lot of it himself. I didn't have the time or the expertise to do it, a lot of it myself. I used to do that in other areas, but I just don't have the time to do it. And therefore, I have to pay, you know, in this case, we went to like Envision to host it themselves, and they charged like 5 times the amount or 10 times the amount that probably Brian paid to host it. And, but, you know, they can do like the technical updates and things like that, which I'm as the admin, I'm like still leery to hit upgrade button because I don't know what the hell's going to disappear. So, any of you good web people, you could always volunteer. We could always use a hand, man, on this site just to organize this stuff a little better and keep it running smoothly. And then I think in 2026, I'll have some Alpha Drone branded merchandise, at least a shirt, maybe a hat. So tell me what you'd like to see. Usually off the top of my head, the t-shirts are what's most common. I don't know that it's necessarily the most popular. I don't know that a hat is necessarily the most, popular, but that's something you could put in the comments. Hey, I think you should do this, 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 and this. And then, of course, now let's go to the forums. And this is kind of like the king of forums for discussing. So you go to Robot Talk, and you have all these topics. So here's like a fake musical drummer robot on eBay. And I don't know why this topic's duplicated because I actually had written about it prior to. And I'll show you, it is right down here. This original vintage, yada, yada, yada. But for some reason, somebody posted it again. They didn't repost, they created a similar topic. But anyway, like here is your ET Friction robot car, sells for $190. And then after the buyer's premium, it hit a total of $234,000. So let me get into that specifically too before I kind of sign off on that. That car was offered to me. Believe it or not, the seller was in Japan. If we're talking about the same car, the car was offered to me initially for $500,000, and I kind of laughed. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I think I'd rather have a Lamborghini Aventador, one of the early models I can get for that. So eventually the price came down, and at some point the guy was like, I'll say you, let's just say he split it like 200 for half, in other words, the box or the toy, let's, for argument's sake. And I was like, dude, you're smoking something. So eventually he came back and was willing to do a deal for 200. And I said, and I actually claimed that I offered him that. And I said, no, I never offered you anything. By the way, here's the record-breaking comic book. So anyway, to get back to this, here's the car here, by the way. You could see. So I said, I never offered you anything close to that. As a matter of fact, that's almost double what the most expensive space toy ever sold for. And quite honestly, the toy itself is cool, but it's not, there's no great lithography on it. Like for those that know toys, like, I'm very partial to something like the Kanto Space Patrol tank, which I think has beautiful lithography, or the Super Cycle, the blue one, even though like the R10 VW, Space VW, stuff like that. I mean, it has amazing lithography, or robots like the Lavender robot, Gang of Five. The car itself is pretty plain. The robots are cool, but they don't have a lot of dynamic lithography that you look at them and you're like, oh my god, these are so freaking cool. And they don't, quite honestly, they don't have that like excuse me, compelling design like to me, one of my favorite, the Lantern robot, which has cool lithography, a lot of rivet details, things like that, and just beautiful all around. So I made him an offer significantly less, but I still thought very generous. It still would have been like a record-breaking price, and he passed. So here's my thing. Now, I'm not saying that this may or may not happen, but in a general sense, the way auction companies work, if I gave them that toy and I said, I want a $200,000 reserve on the toy, in the fine print, in the fine print, they can run it up, right? There, it tells you we're allowed to basically bid it up to the reserve, which means that it can be bid to the reserve, but not necessarily sell. I'm not saying or implying that that happened. Now, I can tell you I put a very strong offer or strong bid on this toy. And it's not like I was approached, because sometimes what happens too with these auctions is you'll get like the phone call, right? And the phone call says, hey, the buyer backed out, something happened. And then you have to assess, right? Is that legit? I'm trying to show you the Jupiter, by the way, but I can't really. Let me see if I do so. Hold on. Nope, that won't work that way. All right, I can't show you. The Jupiter's on here too, but but at any rate, you have to make the decision, right? Like, and I'll put it to you bluntly. I was actually the underbidder on that car, but I knew that there's two things. If the seller that had the toy in Japan, right, if he sent it over and he said, I want that reserve, I said, I'm not going to go to the that number, because then I've been bidding against myself the entire time. If you understand what I'm saying, because if the auction and again, I'm just using this as an example. I'm not implying that this happened. I'm just saying this is a standard operating procedure for an auction company with a high value item that they've consigned, and they have in their terms of service that they can bid it up. So if this person was dead set on getting, like, say, for argument's sake, 200, right? I'm like, well, I'll get close, but I'm not going to hit that, because I already know that this is what he wanted, because this was already conveyed to me. So I'm trying to think, when it stopped at 190, because it stopped at 190, the next bid would have put it at 2. I'm like, I'm not putting it at 2. So it's 190 plus whatever, 25%, 20%. That's where you get your 233,700. So theoretically, right, it could have been bid up, and it might have been legit. Somebody just said, I want it, I'm willing to. And it's likely that somebody paid that much for it. But there's also a possibility that it stagnated and it could be sitting back in Japan. I just don't know. And I'm not saying it for just this one item in particular. It could be for any item sometimes, like a high-priced item like that. My feeling is that it probably sold, because if I was an auction company, I would be like doing my damnedest to contact the seller and consigner and say, look, man, this is closed. You see this at Mecum all the time, right? They're pounding, someone had bid for the car, and then they're hitting the seller like, lift the reserve, lift the reserve, lift the reserve. And you can see the seller's like pissed off. He's like, I don't want to lift the reserve. I want my $1 million. And they're like, dude, it's at like 925,000 and blah, 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 blah. And then a lot of times the sellers will relinquish, and they'll give up that reserve. And sometimes then it sparks a second wave of bidding, and it actually goes way above and beyond. But they could easily, go to somebody and say, look, I know you wanted 200,000. You got 190. That's freaking good enough. Or maybe we'll take a little less on our commission or something. I don't know. I mean, it seems like you could work a deal. Like, the irony of all this is, from my understanding, is that this was found at like some, Japanese swap shop or something like that. I mean, for peanuts, like $20 or something like that. And look, it happens. It happens, and God bless the guy. He got himself a great freaking deal. And, I mean, he should be tickled pink that, he got this kind of money. The other benefit for Morphe selling it is that you have a 15% tariff right now. So for the normal person, like say I said to this seller, I'll give you 200,000. Well, now I'm already up to 230 because it's a 15% tariff. The other thing is that you can't insure it. You can, but they limit it. So it's tough to get really proper coverage. And even if they cover it, if you have a loss, good luck trying to get a loss covered. I've had losses like $1,000 loss, and DHL could care less. They could care less if you sue them. How strong your evidence is. I mean, I've had them literally open a box to inspect and rip the toy box, the original toy box. They literally sliced it with a knife. And they're like, oh, well, too bad, so sad. And you have to prove to them that it's worth what it's worth. It's a cumbersome process. It's designed to make you give up. And that was on a couple of $1,000 toy. Could you imagine, like, entrusting $250,000? I think it'd be like, I would have to have it hand delivered. And you might think that's crazy, but I could tell you, I've had 2 toys delivered, over the years from Europe, hand delivered, because I didn't want to trust the shipping company. It was easier for me to pay for a flight for an individual to just deliver it and have peace of mind. So if the toy was here and there was a legit buyer, the one advantage is that they didn't have to go through the hassle of that stuff. So now, kind of in conclusion to all this, I'm looking at my notes here. I'm sorry. So I gave you, by the way, join Alpha Drum. Let's hit back there. And so join it. You have members galleries here. I'm going to go back. This is where you could even post your own collection. Free of charge, I might add. And look at that. That is a reproduction of a prototype. Oh, yeah, that's Brian's 3Ds. There's John Rigg. John, what do you have on here? Are these just your... Ooh, I like that Alpha Strider. Ooh, you did that in the translucent. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Hey, this is the one we collaborated on. So I believe I actually did the 3D printing on this and painted it. And, of course, John assembled it all. I have my 3D printer. John, if you're watching this, from when I moved, so that my... what was that 3D printer? Prusa, the Mark II, I guess. I think I sandbagged that thing in 2019. And I'm not even sure what computer I use that has all the files on it. I broke it out. I think it's a 2014 computer laptop. So, I don't even know. Can you still use the Prusa too? I should donate it, man. Or are those files, were they on a memory chip? What do I have? I have the Changeman files on there. I have this Miss Radicon on there. I have the the Hank Ghosties. What did I do? That little tiny robot that I printed out. Oh, that thing was a pain in the ass because I slipped it over that little wind-up body, and oh my God, that thing would jam up the motor. It was a nightmare. I couldn't stand that thing. I know I talked to Brian Hayes about that. I can't even remember. We got some resolution. I remember I was putting in little lenticular pictures inside. And these projects took a long time, but nothing took as long as that Changeman. I think I spent the entire summer. I can't even think of how many hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours of printing that. Hey, Christy, remember that? We'd have that 3D printer printing like literally all night long.
Remember what?
When I was doing that 3D printing.
In Apex?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Remember that printer? Why don't you sit down? You don't have to be afraid.
Oh, I'm not afraid. I'll sit
Here, here's a seat for you, darling.
it.
Fix your hair, fluff it up. Pretty, pretty. This is the last. You've already been in video. You were in my scare video coming out of the bathroom.
Yeah.
You're not even on the camera. You gotta
What way?
lean in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, remember that 3D printing? Didn't I used to leave it run all night long?
You did.
I gotta go back because
it would make that squeaky noise.
Yeah.
All night long.
I think I did 1,000 hours of printing on that stupid thing, and then I would take those parts in the backyard and paint them. I'm like set up just to paint in the grass, and then I remember like I forgot which parts, but I did the alcohol spritzing, where like the alcohol was sort of like melted to sort of like smooth out those lines, and then kept saying that it was toxic. Don't smell the fume. No wonder I'm so screwed up because I was doing all that. Some of that stuff I would do inside when the kids were at school.
You think that's it?
What?
Why you're screwed up?
Yeah, probably. That's why I like the support. Anyway, here's some more of the galleries of the members. Gold Dalek, Gold Dalek, he won a freaking robot. I don't know what happened to him. He disappeared. He was always commenting on the channel. And I said, hey, you won this radar robot. And he like, disappeared. He didn't want me to send it to him, I guess. Oh, God, I'm missing this box. If anyone has this Space Scout box, this I would pay a pretty penny for. I love this box. I know Eric has that. I think he scarfed it off of Facebook. Look, here's my old... These are like my old pictures. Remember, that's our toy box lid.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'll tell you, for the historians... And let me go back here and shrink this just a little bit. So, for anyone into, like, robot history, I'll tell you, this robot was found... This is a great story, though. A couple back in the day... We got, when Christy was running that Ozzy's Robots website, we would get letters in the mail like, we have this for sale, that for sale. A lot, sometimes we get phone calls. And these people called me up and said, we found this root, and we found a ginger root. We found this robot called a Jupiter robot. And they sort of, I said, could you describe it? And then I thought, they're just, trolling me, back then in the 90s. So I said, well, send pictures. Because this was pre-email, right? Mm-hmm. Pre-email. So like 6 months later, I get an envelope with a bunch of Polaroids in it with this freaking robot in there. And I'm like, what? They got a freaking Jupiter for real. And I said, and they're like, oh, yeah, we found it at a garage sale. We paid like $2 for it. I'm like, oh, God almighty. And I'm like, well, what do you want? And they're like, well, we don't know what it's worth. So I remember, I'm like, oh, crap, I don't even have any record of this. This had to be like 95, maybe. So 30 years ago. And I'm like, well, there's no record of this. Or, no, 96, 97, maybe. So I looked, the only...
Have you heard of it? Did you ever hear about the robot before?
Oh, yeah, I knew it. But it might have been 96, 97. But what I did is I found that I think it was either in the Matt Wise auction or one of the... What was the other early auction? I can't remember. Matt Wise or... Oh, crap, I have the... I don't know if I have the Sotheby's book. I think it was a Sotheby's, but it was one of those early 90s auction or mid 90s auctions. Matt Wise or it was somebody else. Al Davidson. So one of those two. And one of those auctions had it loose and it sold for like $3,000. And the people were like, well, what is it worth? And I said, well, the only example I know of sold for $3,000, but it didn't have a box. I said, you have a box, and this was the box. I said, how about like, $5,000? And they're like, oh, yeah, that'd be great. Ira's probably like, you bastard.
sure it's the name of the game.
No, but so they're like, I said, would you take 5 for it? And that's a chunk of money, when you're raising kids.
Yes. 1995.
95, 96, something like that. And so
I think was it a little later than that?
could have been 96, 97.
Because I'm thinking that the kid Andrew was born.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we were. So it was mid to later 90s. Let's just
That's
leave it
what
at
I
that.
think. Yeah.
Over a quarter of a century
Yes,
ago,
yes,
nonetheless.
Yes.
Could have been like 98, 99 even.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I've fly down to Dallas, meet these people at an airport, and I met him at the whole family, the husband, the and boy, man, flying was so much nicer back then. No TSA, and I had all the cash with me, and nobody checked. You had to worry about someone stopping you and said, "Oh, where are they going with all that cash?" And I met him at the Dallas Airport Burger King. And they had like 3 kids, and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" And so I count out the money right there at the Burger King table, and they gave me the robot. My heart's like, oh my God, a Box Jupiter robot. And I got the robot, stayed overnight at the hotel, flew back, and then after that, I remember like right away, a couple of collectors were just bugging me, and they found out I had it, and eventually I made the trade with Ira. Ira got this in his collection because he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I remember Eric, who I didn't know that well at that time. He was trying to, and he was like, "Why'd you sell to him?" I'm like, "Dude, because he made me the offer I can't refuse." But at one time, the irony is that like he offered us his Porsche convertible in a trade.
I was like, no way.
Now you said, "Is it a stick or automatic?" I said, "It's a stick," and you're like, "I can't drive a stick." I said, "All right." I was just talking about that. So we had it for I don't know, like a year. So he makes a trade with us. He gave me a lantern robot and cash. And then though, then in 2000 at the Griffith auction, his sold for like 40,000. I was like, oh my God, damn it, Not that I did okay on it, but like, and then I couldn't find one for a long time. Then I was pissed. I was like, oh, why did I do that? But at the moment, I'm thinking about it, So I've had a lot of these since though, and now I just got the other one. I'm waiting for Morpheus to send it. We have one in the display, and I got the other one at a good price. I know Dave, if he's watching this stream, Dave in Canada, he's like, "What are you gonna do with the other one?" I'm like, "I don't know, Dave. Make me an offer." I hate when people say, like, "How much do you want for it?" I'm more like, "Make me an offer." You know what I mean? Because like it's like anything else. If I find something, just like the guy that found that robot car, he found it for $20. He was like firm at 200,000. You know what I mean? If I found something for 20 and I wanted 10,000, I'd be attacked like, "You greedy bastard," So, it's easier to just say, "Look, I'm willing to pay you X, Y, Z." That's what I do. And the guy with the car, that's what I told him. I said I would pay you X amount. But here's the other thing. As far my car is actually in nicer condition than the one. If you look at the one at Morphe's, had a lot of rust on the bumper and stuff like that. So for me, it would have been strictly for the box, and $250,000 for that box is just insane. I'd rather have, I don't know, like that nice '69 Mustang we looked at, Mach 1, or just something else cool. But I don't know. What do you think, Chris? Do you think cars are going to survive? I kind of talked about that earlier. You got to lean in a little.
I don't.
You think any?
No.
I'm wondering who's going to collect the cars. I think the toys have a future because they're still aesthetically appealing to artists. I'm not so sure about cars. They're just big, cumbersome. Gas might just disappear altogether. There'll be museum pieces, but I was saying, like the kids that don't want to drive, they call Uber. You know, it's their phone. They get on the phone, boom, Uber, take
There
me
may
here.
be different types of vehicles one day too.
Yeah, I mean, and who could afford like the supercars? You know, I mean, if I go on eBay right now, there's hundreds of Lamborghinis, hundreds of Corvettes, dozens of Ferraris, and what you would call like say the common, like the chief robot man of of cars. But who's going to want them? The repairs are crazy. You know,
Insurance is expensive also.
yeah, it's just I don't know. It's not worth it. Anyway, I was telling people to go back to join Alpha Drum if you haven't. It's very easy to join. I know Brian was checking the membership, by the way, and I started getting emails on it. So I think Brian was like, "Hey, buddy, you gotta take care of this because I'm getting like emails to my personal email, which is fine. But then I'm, reminded to go approve the members because not everyone gets approved automatically. Sometimes, it could be like a spam issue or something. And what am I? An hour and 10 minutes. So. And that's it as far as, let's go home here. Oh, look at that. Perfect. And we covered that. Go back to the toys. No, we'll leave it on Alpha Drome. Oh, here's the one of the last things to cover. So actually, Paul Beesmore in England, he's made some of the custom stuff for me. This is Chang's Museum in, where is this? Singapore, I believe. Chang has this museum of toys. Is that what he calls it? The Museum of Shanghai Toys, but they're not made in Shanghai. They're made in mostly Japan, probably some in China. And he's actually, see, this is what we have to do, though. He's going to have this Astro Boy made custom for his museum.
Mm.
Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to even have it with this cool suit.
That's cute.
There's Chang, I think. Look, he was making like a resin. Look at that. A resin Space BW. I mentioned that before. That's crazy. That's kind of cool, but crazy. Anyone tell me which one is the original and which one? I can't tell from the. But I mean, I can tell that this one's hand painted here. So, but that's pretty awesome that you could do that. Is that him himself? Oh, no, Mr. Wang. I don't know Mr. Wang. Space Whale. So anyway, Chang's museum is pretty cool. He's got a cool website, and he's going to have these Astro Boy wind-up tin toys, and I guess they're custom. Like, what does he say? He's got an Astro Boy license. It should be out in November, so it should be out already. It will be on sale at Tang's, I call him Chang, Tang Studio, Vivo City, and the Museum of Shanghai Toy. All right. Oh, we do have, you know what? Do me one favor.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me that Stremco Steambot?
Yeah, the one that's right over there on the shelf.
Well, is it, I don't know. I think the one is in your, either that or entertain the audience here while is there anything in that box? If not, I have to get it. That'll be my sign off for the year.
Oh yeah, you're right. There's nothing there.
Well, you could bring that. You could bring that empty box, and then I'll go. I'm gonna have to.
Are they in the closet? I can go grab it.
Yeah, but you gotta bring it carefully. So we do have the exclusives, which I did the video on. I mean, yes, it's over $1,000. It's gonna, I don't even, I haven't even dialed in the price. I still don't know my cost 100%. But these are like the custom black and gold and brass. So we do have the 10. This here. And yeah, the range is going to somewhere between $1,200 and $1,500. I just have to, find out exactly what I paid for because I don't know yet. We still haven't calculated with the shipping and the tariffs.
See, where are they?
Huh?
Are they in that?
Well, it's in the case behind you. You got a key to open it?
Okay. I sorry. I was looking in the storage.
Can you carry it without dropping its head? Its head is kind of wonky. It's like a bobblehead on there. What other stories should I regale you with while she's getting that? Oh, yeah. This is, I may have made a video of this by now, but can I somehow get this more in frame or no? So this is a kind of a cool, interesting space gun. I may have made a video by it, or this will be in early 2026. The resolution's a little weak on this, but the gun looks exactly like on the box. Ooh, lovely. Look at that bad boy. Look at that bad. Oh, that's there we go. Look at this.
Show the back.
Huh?
Show the back.
I know I've been asked by like several people to like turn this thing on, but I'm like, I don't want to put fire in this frickin' thing, So that's your steam robot. It actually works with steam. Like you literally burn stuff in it. I didn't put the expansion valve on this one, but yeah, this is a cool piece. This is made in Germany by Strengo. Let's back up a little bit. Yeah, this thing is big. See that? That is a big boy. Tell the people Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Thank you. You're like Vanna White turning letters. Oh, and you see that over there? Is that? Oh no, I may not. You won't see it, but in 1,000 Tin Toys, I can tell you we actually. Oops, that's not working good. We actually acquired. This is a sort of a reveal, but I'm not going to. Let me just. There we go. We actually acquired some pieces from that collection, which you know which collection I'm from, the author of 1,000 Tin Toys, and I don't think I'm gonna videotape them. Those are something. Either if I do membership on the channel, which YouTube is pressing me to do memberships, they're like, sell memberships, you can make more money. I'm like, no, you guys can make more money because I don't make squat. But I do actually have a compelling membership because I do have t-shirts to go along with it and access to the museum. And I could do then exclusive videos like the stuff that came from that collection. And they'll be member exclusive only. So that might be something. But I'd have to do a lot more live streams. This is obviously not a live stream. I'm pre-recording this. Like I said, I'm doing this for New Year's. This is going to be my combination New Year's Eve, New Year's Day video. Just to kind of like keep people entertained that, otherwise would have nothing to do. So it's my little contribution of content to people that aren't like really into watching the stupid ball drop or watching boring, Hollywood movies or the usual 10 people that you might see on YouTube. And I think that sort of wraps it up. Christy, you left at the worst time when I was going to kill the stream, so now we'll have to wait for her to come back. And in the meantime, let's see. Got the Chang Museum done. Anything else? Well, you know what? Let's look. While we wait for her, we'll kind of see what's happening in the world of eBay. Oh, Here's a last funny story. Remember, I did the video with that box that I hadn't opened since 2006, and it was that mailer tube, kind of poster tube that had the banner in there, the Ford banner, the Cobra that I bought from that graphics company. I was, trying to teach my kids, not that it's complicated, but how to sell something on eBay. Oh, you're back, Christy? Come back in here because we're going to sign off soon. So I was telling my son here, if you want to sell on eBay, because we have a lot of stuff we could sell, and not just necessarily toy related. I may or may not have posted another crawl space video by now, but I said, let me just do this little bit because I'm not going to keep the banner. That I'm not going to buy a 2007 GT500 Mustang. Plus, they're all stick. They didn't make the automatic version until later, and I know Christy won't drive it. So I put it on eBay. Now I bought this on eBay from this graphics company that was licensed allegedly, and the listing's on there, $29, right? Fixed price. And I get an email from eBay, and it says, your listing is canceled. I'm like, why the hell is it canceled? And it said, so they give you like 3 or 4 different reasons. And what I gathered from it was that it was potentially, what do you call fraudulent or like bootleg merchandise. What do you call that? Like the fake Gucci's and stuff like that, or fake Louis, counterfeit. They're like, you can't sell counterfeit. I'm like, are you kidding me? I bought this thing on eBay. You guys sold it as a licensed product, and it's freaking $29. And you're telling me, and I got that price based on, and there's 1 million banners on there, 1 million of these freaking banners, not exactly the style that I had.
I wonder how they would even know.
Yeah, and who complained? Who the hell complained? Like, it was like shocking. Oh, by the way, here's is this nice? This Target robot. A little rusty, but it's one of my favorite robots too, the Target. But anyway, so I just canceled it. I said it's not even worth it, to go through this hassle. So there's so much for teaching my kids how to put a listing on there, and we'll look at these color forms. I think this thing's been for sale for like 20 years. I remember this thing probably in the 90s.
People are watching it. Is it an auction?
Yeah, buy it now. Like I think this guy he's in New York. I think he just wants to draw attention to himself. These are cool, these color forms, but you could find them loose without the package for peanuts. And does he even have 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Does he have all 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess he does. I mean, they're cool, but 50 grand, dude? I don't know. I don't know. That's not my cup of tea. Not for that price. So here's the pyrotomic disintegrator. We have that. I got that much more reasonable from a rare, cheaper deal from Morphe's. But this guy usually had this thing priced at $15,000. So he must have, decided like, hey, I'm tired of waiting 10 years. I might be dead before this thing sells. I got this sealed in the package for a couple $100. So, I mean, unless I got hosed with some kind of fake reproduction, but it looks real.
Oh, my phone's ringing.
All right. Well, say bye because I'm going to sign off soon.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye. Let me go get this. It's Andrew.
I'm going to go through the battery toys and dun 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 dun. This has been for sale forever too. This Fuji Maru bat missile, I'll call it. This kind of weird Superman tank that has like these extra Supermen. A lot of these outboards. It's funny, like seeing like auctions on here that I remember it when my kids who are parents now, and the auctions are still going. They started when they were toddlers. Ooh, cutie cook. All right, everyone. That's it for 2025. Hope you enjoyed it. By the way, let me show you a peek at Galactus over there. Did I show you that? Isn't that cool? I do like it. As much as I think Disney's a bunch of woke tards, the Galactus in that Fantastic Four robot is pretty cool. So, listen, hope you have a very safe, healthy, happy, and prosperous 2026. And hopefully we'll grow the channel and achieve some really cool milestones in 2026. With that, thanks, my friends. I will talk to you later.